Good. We are live. Are we live? Welcome back to another Recruiter Fuel Live. It is Thursday. It's 3 o'clock Eastern Time. My name's Steve Lowisz. You are unfortunately getting the sick Steve Lowisz. I've been off the last couple of days, and you can hear it in my voice, and you can probably see it in my face. But you know it's really bad when you have a conversation. I had a conversation on Monday, and I got reminded of that conversation today, and I didn't even remember I had the conversation with a candidate on Monday. And he says, "Are you kidding me? Did you look at your calendar?" And literally it was right there, and I did have the conversation on Monday. So you know it's an off week when something like that happens. But welcome back. So the last 2 weeks we've been in this discussion around college degrees. If you hadn't seen the Recruiter Fuel video last week and this week, make sure you check it out. It's on the website. Go to recruiterfuel.com or go to Qualigence.com. You can get to Recruiter Fuel as well. But we basically broke up a interview with a number of different generations, let's call it, and we were talking about the whole subject of degrees and the value of degrees and how they're looked at, and does a degree guarantee success? And from last week's, I got a couple of questions, so we're going to kind of break this up into two sections. One is going to be, let's talk about what happened on the Recruiter Fuel video, and then I've got another question that's unrelated to it completely that I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on as well. But one of the questions was, can you be overeducated for a role? So there was related to the whole thing around college degrees. And can you have too much college that actually overqualifies you for a role? There's a lot of talk about it out there. And there was an example that one of our team members here talked about in terms of HR. And there's a lot of people that go into HR, they get their degree, their bachelor's or undergrad, and then move directly into a master's degree. The problem is they often don't have any practical work experience between their bachelor's and master's. And then ultimately when they go out into the workforce, they're not even qualified by experience to actually do an HR coordinator's job or anything along those lines. So from that perspective, there are some concerns. And I talked to some recruiter friends last week about this. And there's sometimes when somebody goes directly through to their higher education, there are some concerns that they're overqualified, that they're going to get too bored, that could they even be too smart for the role, but they really knock them for not having the actual experience. So the answer, I guess, is yeah, you can be relatively overeducated for a role if you don't have actual hands-on experience. And in fact, one of the other folks in the video that went out earlier today talked about having internships, talked about all of that practical experience while you're in college, making that a better candidate. But if you're a recruiter out there and you're watching this, I'd be curious to what your thoughts are. Comment below or shoot me a message and we'll talk about it. So that was question number one. Question number two, this is one that I've struggled with for 20 years. And it was, should everybody go to college? And this came from a recruiter friend of mine who actually does not have a degree, said, should everybody go to college? And the reality of it is, I would think, this is my personal opinion, no. There's so many other tracks that people can take. Think about the trades. I mean, you can't find plumbers or electricians to save your life right now, and these people are making $100,000, $125,000, $130,000. And it seems as though that we dissuade our kids from going into the trades, that the only thing that they should be doing is going to college because that'll almost guarantee a degree. And, you know, I kind of bought into that for a period of time. But now I'm looking at it saying everybody's wired differently. And as the interview that we shared earlier, you know, you don't have to have a degree to be successful. In many instances, you have to have it for the specific job that you want to choose, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a doctor, and so forth. Absolutely. I'm not going to go to a doctor without a degree. I mean, how smart is that, Jennifer? You know, that doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't mean that every student, every college-age kid, or every kid that's graduating from high school, that's the way to go. Sometimes it seems today it's almost set up as a false security blanket, that if I get this, I'm going to be as successful as everybody else. I'll have, you know, the rest of my life, I'll just be one success after the other after the other. So I do think there's some concerns about, you know, does everybody have to have a college degree? Again, I think the answer is no. Look at the people that have been successful without it. I've referenced it before. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all of these others that really don't have a degree, but they applied themselves. That's one person's opinion. A lot of the employers that we work with, they require a degree. We talked about that in the interview as well, that aired a little bit earlier. Everybody's got their prerogative. You know, let's just kind of keep that in mind. But it leads me to the third question that came through, and it was, hey Steve, does college really prepare you for success? What are your employers saying? Does college really prepare you for success? What are your employers saying? So I wanted to do a little bit of research on this before I just gave my opinion. So I went online, and we know everything online is true, but let's just go with it for the time being here, right? 1/3 of executives and 1/4 of hiring managers believe graduates possess the skills and knowledge to advance or be promoted. This was earlier this year, late last year, I'm sorry. Among both audiences, majorities believe that colleges and universities need to make improvements to ensure that college graduates possess the skills and knowledge needed for workplace success. It goes on. Communication, oral communication, critical thinking, ethical judgment, teamwork, written communication, and real-world application of knowledge and skills is more important than just the knowledge itself. This is what employers have been saying for quite some time. Let me read that again. Oral communication, critical thinking, ethical judgment, teamwork, written communication, and real-world application of knowledge and skills is more important than just the knowledge. And then let's face it, right? So we put so much emphasis in one thing, being a college degree, which is absolutely important, or the skills that an individual has. But the reality of it is people are made up of more than just the skills they had. We hire primarily for skills, we fire primarily for something else, attitude, motivation, all of those other things. So we've got to look beyond just one item. The other thing, this is from December of 2018, college students may believe they're ready for a job, but employers think otherwise. And in fact, when they went to the actual employers and then they went to the college students, the employers, 42.5% of them said that those that were entering the workforce had the professionalism and work ethic that they wanted. Whereas if you go to the college students, 89.4% of them said, yep, we're ready for the workforce. And it goes on and on and on. In essence, the way that college students you guys are looking at yourselves is very different than the way employers are looking at you. So we've got to be cautious about that. So getting back to the answer, does college really prepare you for success? I think in some instances, yes. But in some instances, there's a big concern out there. There's a big gap because people are made up of, right? You got your mind, you got your heart, or if you think about it, your head, your heart, and then the knowledge, skills, and abilities. And you've got to have all of those because you can have all the knowledge. We've gone through this a gazillion times and still not be able to do the job. But you can learn to do the job if you have the general ability to do it, if you have the motivation to do it, and so forth. So we've got to be really cautious about the weight we put there. But then obviously there are some things that it shows. As we said in the earlier interview that went out at 2 o'clock, if you've got the college along with the internships, practical experience, it shows a certain mentality and a certain attitude that employers, to at least us, are saying that's what we want. So given 2 new college grads or relatively new college grads, one has internships, one doesn't, they're going to ultimately look at the one that has the internship. So no, it doesn't guarantee success. A lot of other things do, but it doesn't hurt your chances of success at all. So we've spent the last 2 weeks, and we've kind of beat this horse to death. I'm kind of done talking about the whole college degree thing. We've got everybody's perspective of it. We've got some millennials. We had some Gen Zers in there. And everybody kind of ended up in the same path. It'd be curious to see what you guys think, what your employers think if you're a third-party agency. And if you are an employer, how do you view this? It'd be great to have your comments. So shoot me a message, comment here on the live. If it's a recorded version of it, I'll respond to you later. Now, let me switch gears a little bit on this. I got a number of questions over the last couple of weeks, and I had to give myself some time to think about this. They were related to this question. What are the key skills that are lacking in a recruiter today? So as I experience both corporate recruiters and agency recruiters, so I had an actual conversation with the person that asked me the question, and he's actually going to come on in a couple of weeks so we can hash this out a little bit more. He says beyond the traditional skill set, and he didn't include that in the initial message. So I went right back to him and I said, look, it's about communication, it's about picking up the phone, it's about building relationships and all those things. Too many recruiters were never taught how to do that. He says, no, go beyond that stuff. When you think about the way we use technology today, the way in which we do communicate off of our phones, in-mails, emails, texts, and so forth. What is that one skill that I believe, and he was asking me, that recruiters need to actually have? And as I thought about that after the last couple of weeks, I can say there's one thing that's really missing. And it's really the difference in the marketing world. You guys, my marketing team, would appreciate this, between writing content and writing copy. So copywriters and content writers are two very different skill sets. Recruiters need to first understand what the two are, because think of the mediums as recruiters that we use today. Very few pick up the phone any longer to call a candidate until sometime later in the process. And I know there's agency recruiters, we do the same. We pick up the phone, we drive that relationship, but so many live behind an in-mail message, email, text, and we use those mediums as well. No question about it. But if we're going to continue to use these mediums, we sure as hell better use them the right way and know how to write a compelling message to get somebody to actually interact with you. A call to action, as we call it, you guys call it on the marketing side, right? The skill sets are very similar between writing to get a candidate to respond or a target candidate to respond to you as it is sending out an email to get somebody to be interested in buying. That's very different than putting content out there to engage in brand. Those are two distinct things. If you don't understand what I'm talking about and you're a recruiter, go online and Google the difference between a copywriter and a content writer. Chances are that you're more similar to a content writer in most cases than a true copywriter. And that's probably because you've never been educated on the difference between the two. How you write to get somebody to respond, to actually make them do an action of clicking here, of responding to you, is very different. Look, all these messages coming from recruiters out there, and I hear this from candidates all the time, they're all the same. Have I got a great position for you? I saw your wonderful profile. The differentiator isn't there, so they're not going to respond to you. There's a book I want you to read. Pick this thing up. I'm not getting paid anything for this. It is actually called How to Write Copy That Sells. It's by a guy by the name of Ray Edwards. I've read it a couple of times now, even after recruiting for all of these years, and it's allowed me to change my messaging in a way using marketing skills, which we need to have as recruiters more so than ever before. Read that book. I guarantee you it will change the way you look at the messages you send. Again, whether it's in-mail, whether it's email, in any other format. It may even change the way in which you have an initial conversation if you follow the principles that Ray outlines in the book, which is what a copywriter does. The way that they engage with somebody to get them to actually take action. That's the difference from the many emails that even I still get from recruiters that really all look the same. Maybe 1 out of 200 emails or in-mails that I get from a recruiter actually are something that I would respond back to. Think about that yourself. So all that being said, that's the one skill. If you're going to be a recruiter in 2019 and on into 2020 as this continues to change, you better be skilled at your ability to market and start focusing on being able to write like a copywriter, not like a content. That's a content writer. Those are very different, both needed, but from a recruiter's perspective, focus more on the copywriting side. Now, a couple of other pieces that I wanted to mention. David, if you can put up on the screen, next couple of months, I have a book coming out. It basically is going to be looking at some of the myths that I believe are around in recruiting. And the title of the book is, in essence, Recruiting Sucks, But It Doesn't Have to. Now, here's what's going to happen. If you're interested in getting a complimentary copy of this book, it's probably another 60 days away. We don't know the exact date yet. It will be up on Amazon as well. Make sure you post below. Send me your either comment below, send me an email, shoot me a note on Twitter, however you want to do it. Make sure you get to me. I'm going to pick somewhere around 50 people that are going to get a free complimentary copy of this book. Part of it is you're going to have a great time reading it because there's some cool stories in there, but it's really about looking at the myths associated with recruiting and really tearing apart those myths and saying, why are they so stupid and why do we actually follow them? Like, recruiting is actually a really, really great business, but unfortunately so many recruiters that I talk to every day are downtrodden in the dumps and continue to tell me recruiting has turned into something that sucks. Corporate recruiters tell me the exact same thing. Here's the reality of it. It doesn't have to. It's what you make of it, and you got to stop believing the lies that are out there. So make sure you send me a note. We'll get you signed up, and we'll let you know if you're going to get a copy of it. So I think that's it for today, which is probably really good because I'm hanging on by a thread here with my coffee and my drugs, from not illegal, from my cold medicine and everything else. Make sure, again, you comment so you can get a copy of the book, or at least be registered to get a copy of the book. We will see you 1 week from today. We're going to have a brand new series starting next week for Recruiter Fuel, so we'll have a different line of discussion moving forward. And in a couple of weeks, I'll actually be going live from the Bahamas while I'm on vacation, but I'm not going to stop doing this every Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern. We'll see you then.